Let's get ready to learn something. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna introduce the moderator for our first panel. You can see it on both of the screens right over here. This panel is called Financial Management for Food Entrepreneurs. And the summary is that you can learn crucial financial management techniques to grow beyond initial support. So without further ado, I'm gonna get out the way and introduce Mr. Jason Wallace, restaurant consultant, AKA the restaurant scientist. Give him a round of applause as Jason comes on stage. Jason, there you are right there, brother.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, I'm gonna be very intentional today about what we're here to accomplish. One, we're gonna accomplish building community for Eat Okra. Two, we're gonna recognize the fact that we are Black history every day, and we make Black history every day. And this is a journey, because the story is not done yet, right? So we're walking a journey. So when we start talking about wealth, building, finance, profitable restaurants, that's the discussion we're gonna dive deep into, all right? So get ready. So my first panel member I'm gonna bring to the stage is a legend. Harlem's own Melba Wilson, owner of Melba's Restaurants. Next, I want to bring Kenneth Ware, chef owner, president, Backyard Barbeque. Next, we're going to bring Renee King, founder, Fun Black Founders. Renee, come to the stage. And then finally, we got Nicole King, executive director, national achiever, JP Morgan Chase and Company. Everyone check your microphones, please. Check, microphones.
Good morning.
Check.
Fried chicken
All right.
in the house.
Fried chicken.
So here's what we're gonna do, people. As I stated before, it's important that we recognize who we are, what we do, how we do it. We recognize that we're creating history every day. We're gonna be unapologetic about the fact that you can't ignore us, you can't ignore our communities, you can't ignore our businesses. And we're gonna build wealth because Eat Okra is the platform that is designed to build community. And we're talking about the entire ecosystem of the restaurant industry, $1 trillion economic impact on the GDP, 15 million jobs. 9 out of 10 restaurants in America have under 50 employees, right? So we curated this panel specifically to talk about financial wealth building and growth for your establishment. So I'm gonna start it off, panelists, and we're just gonna, the story's not done on us. So we're gonna talk about, I like to say the journey, right? Because we're still on this journey. So we're gonna do 1 minute because we're gonna get deep into a conversation. I think we only got about 30 minutes, and then we're gonna open up for questions. So I need you all to think about the questions and comments, questions you have for us, so that we could give you answers, right? This is an educational platform. This is a community-based platform. You have a wealth of knowledge and experience up here, so please utilize us in that sense. So, 1 minute each one of us. I'm gonna lay it off with my journey. Jason Wallace, United States Navy veteran, cooked in the United States Navy, went to the Culinary Institute of America, got an undergraduate degree in culinary arts, classically French trained under Gerard Pengo, Joe Baum, Restaurant Associates, went to La Rochelle, France, studied, went to Bordeaux, studied wines, had my fingers grinding in the soil in Bordeaux, came back to the United States, line cook, sous chef, executive chef. Then I understand that there's a business side to this culinary world, right? Went back to school, Culinary Institute of America, making Black history, the first Black graduate of the bachelor's program in the Culinary Institute of America. Yes, we making history. Went on to teach at the New York Restaurant School, 13 years as an educator. became the first black chairman of the New York State Restaurant Association. To this day, the first only in black treasurer, vice chairman, and chairman. So again, we making black history each and every day. Don't ignore me, right? I won't let you do it. Went back to the school, Culinary Institute of America, got a master's degree in food business. Became the first graduate with a master's degree from the Culinary Institute of America. Again, making black history, right? So it's important for you to understand who's up here so that you can understand the level of knowledge that we're about to drop on you. That's my journey so far. I'm gonna pass it to Melba. Tell us your journey, Melba.
Good morning, everybody. My journey is, I had $1 and a dream. I am born, bred, and buttered in the village of Harlem. Back in the 90s, 114th Street was one of the most drug-ridden blocks in Harlem. I was on a flight one day, and a flight attendant said, "In case of an emergency, put on your mask first." I was complaining about the problem, but what was I doing to fix the problem? I wasn't doing what I should have been doing. My family's from South Carolina. My grandmother saved money under her mattress. My mother saved money under her mattress. God, what do you think I did? Saved money under my mattress. Started counting and counting and counting. I had amassed a small fortune, $312,000. Wow. Walking down the street, 114th and 8th, that same corner, there was a sign that said, "For rent." Took that money, invested in that corner. And the reason I invested in that corner is because there was a school in the middle of the block called Wallace. Before kids got to go to school, whether they entered on 7th Avenue, Adam Clayton Powell, or Frederick Douglass, they had to pass drug activity. And it was breaking my heart. So for me, it was like, if I could show you what I've done being from the community, that I wanted you to know that you had options. So I opened up Melba's. Food is a common denominator. It brings people together. 19 years later, there's Melba's in Harlem, no partners, no investors. There's Melba's in Central Park that's been there 3 years. There's Melba's at the Prudential Center that we've just celebrated 1 year. And thank you. And Grand Central opens, Grand Central's coming. Grand Central opens in November, and second quarter of 25, Newark opens. But it's never about me. It's about we. It's about we. It's about impacting my community. It's showing people that I was told I couldn't, I wouldn't, and I shouldn't, but I did. So this message is not just for me. I'm also the first female and person of color to be president of the New York City Hospitality Alliance.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, but literally, how many lives can we touch? Yep. How can we become pollinators and change our community? Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Build a community, creating jobs. Kenneth, you're up.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? I know you said he went to the Culinary Institute, but we're gonna clap it up for Johnson and Wells. I'm a Johnson and Wells graduate right
JW.
Here. Johnson and Wells in the house. We got anybody from Johnson and Wells in here? Yeah, J. Wu Pride. Okay. J. Wu Pride. So my name is Kenneth Ware. I am the chef and co-owner of Backyard Barbecue in Long Island. Also, we're gonna clap it up for Long Island because we forget about Long Island a lot.
Absolutely.
Well, we had a funny joke. I tell everybody I'm bringing everyone in this room to Long Island because everybody forgets about Long Island. Like I said, I'm a chef and co-owner of Backyard Barbecue. I'm a Johnson & Wells graduate. I went to Johnson & Wells for culinary arts and food service management. I'm also classically French trained. I've worked in the top restaurants in New York City. I moved to London for a little while, worked there in a Michelin star restaurant where I actually worked for free. One day I used to travel from Long Island on the Long Island Railroad, barely had enough money to get to Manhattan every day. And I used to go to Barnes and Nobles. I couldn't afford the books, but I read them. So if you know anything about the Long Island Railroad, you had to either show up 2 hours early for work or 2 hours later.
Right.
So I used to show up and read books at Barnes and Nobles, and one day I picked up a book, and when I got to the end of the book, I'm like, I wonder where this restaurant is at. And it was in London. And I said at that moment, I'm gonna go to London. So I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I sold dinners out of my house in Long Island for 3 months long. I saved up as much money as I could. I bought a one-way ticket, and I lived in London, and I worked under the top chefs for free. And if you know anything about being a black man in the kitchen, they don't really want us there. So I enjoy this space. I think everybody that's created this space, because, you know, it's been hard for us. It's been hard for us. And after I came back from London, I've continued to work, kept my head down, and then the pandemic happened, and my life flashed before my eyes. Cooking is all I ever knew what to do. This where I felt safe at, where I was myself at, and I showed up to work one day, and the chef was like, everybody take any produce in the kitchen, and we're not opening tomorrow. So during the pandemic, I didn't know which way I was going. Ironically, at the same time, my dad had just bought a restaurant in Long Island called Backyard Barbeque, which I own now, and he says, you know what, Kenny, I'm moving, I'm selling the house and selling the restaurant. And at the time, me and my partner, we purchased the restaurant from my dad, and I never looked back. I'm ecstatic to be here. If I could say anything, is keep your head down and keep going, and I'm glad to be on this panel. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. So, as you see, we have operators on this side. Now we're going to talk about, because this is about financing, now we're going to talk about investment, debt, and equity. Renee, tell us your journey.
My name is Renee King. I'm the founder of Fund Black Founders. We are a crowdfunding platform. If you think about like Indiegogo, GoFundMe, we are a crowdfunding platform that matches what you raise. So if you raise capital on the platform, we've been able to match up to $35K of whatever you raise on the platform, and that normally comes in the form of grant capital, and that comes from our partners. We have a lot of match funding partners who are pretty famous celebs, athletes, and foundations, but we also help you raise this capital too. To tell you my story, how I got here, this is not my first startup. I had a startup before. I was just like you, where I was in the audience at a Black women in tech conference, and an angel investor who was on the stage, who was talking to the audience of Black women entrepreneurs, literally said, if you all can't raise a friends and family round, what does that say about you? Do y'all know what a friends and family round is? For those who do not know, when you think of these traditional businesses that may not be started by us, typically they have like a rich Aunt Oprah or, Uncle Jay-Z, who's like, I believe in your idea. Here is a check of like $50K to go ahead and get it started, right? That's what a traditional friends and family round looks like. Your friends and family believes in your idea from day before you even started, and is like, oh, I have enough capital. Here you go ahead and get it going. So for that investor to say to a room full of people who look like us, like to shame us, to say like, why can't you just raise a friends and family round, knowing that most of us do not have Aunt Oprah or Uncle Jay-Z who can give us a check to say, go ahead and start it. Our friends and family round looks a little different. It might be your day job salary. It might be, you started as a side hustle. You're maxing out your credit cards. And we're not saying that's like, you should do that, but that's what our traditionally looks like, right? We do a collaboration of different things. So at that point, when she said that, I was triggered and decided that it was time to start a different way for us to raise capital. Why did we choose a crowdfunding platform? When you think of the history of our community, anything that we've been able to do historically has been done as a collective. Group economics has been our thing from before crowdfunding was the word, right? We've done that. When you think about the church building fund, when you think about rent parties, when you think about dollar vans, right? This was all group economics. So my thought was, why can't we do this in a bigger scale? Why can't we own this and get it better where now we also have other people coming in to match what you raise and to help you raise it too? So that's how I got started.
Got it. Thank you. So again, what you're seeing here is, you understand it. You know, keep in mind, we're gonna come back to what Kenny said. He didn't say his dad gave him the restaurant. He said he sold it to him, right? Right? He didn't give it to you. So there's only two ways of raising capital in this country: it's debt and equity. Right? So we're going to talk about the balance sheet, assets, liabilities, owner's equity. We're going to talk about the income statement, revenue and expenses. We're going to talk about the statement of cash flow. Right? So we really want you to understand, what does it take? Some of you in the audience, I was talking to you before because I like to know the audience. Some of you are startups. Some of you have been in business for 1 to 3 years. Some of you are established. You got a veteran like Melba. Like, how does she continue to grow? So my goal, and the education that I want you to leave here, I want you to leave here fed. It's gonna be, I'm gonna come a little just Sunday, right? So we gonna be a little church. You're like, is this dude a pimp or a preacher? Because I'm gonna tell you some things. I want you to leave here fed. I want you to leave here with knowledge, because that's what Edoka and Building Community is about. So now the crowdfunding piece is going to be additional questions and comments. Now I want to talk to Nicole, because she's going to represent Chase, and we're going to talk about, how do you become bank ready, right? How do you do that? And what does it take for you to grow your brand from a $3 million brand to opening up multiple units? So now you got 2 $3 million brands. Now you got $6 million organization. That's a different conversation, right? You open up that third place. Now you got a $9 million food group. Right? And you got different revenue streams. You got retail, you got breakfast, lunch, and day parts. Dinner, you got beer, wines, and spirits. But we got to be ready for Nicole, because she's going to ask you about your balance sheet.
Because I want the money back.
She wants the money back. Right? They lied to us for a year. All this shit is personal. It ain't business. It's personal. Why would she lend you money if you can't pay it back? Right. So Nicole, tell us your journey, and then let's walk down. Let's just jump right into being bank ready.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Let's go. What's
up?
Let's bring that energy.
So my name is Nicole King, and I have the privilege of being the executive director for community banking for JP Morgan Chase. And my journey, prior to being at the bank, I actually owned a business in Harlem called Miss King Productions. As we know, Harlem did not look like it does today. We always had the fantastic Melba's, who's my sister. But what my company did was we curated spaces for professionals to come and meet like-minded individuals. And just to show you how life works and how God works, in 2007, I like to say it was the best and worst year of my life, because in March, I lost my mom to stage 4 lung cancer. In July, I purchased my first property. And then in September, I lost my job of 9 years. So I would go into Chase Bank on 125th Street every month, not only to pay my mortgage, but to look after my investments, because I rolled over my 401k. And at that time, I would go in, sit with a banker, and after I finished my business, I would give them a martini ticket, because I used to do an event called Martini Thursdays. And he said to me, you know, you would make a great banker. I knew nothing about what banking was, what I was supposed to do, other than I went there once a month. As they say, the rest is history. I've been with the firm 16 years. 5 years ago, I started a community banking model for JP Morgan Chase right in Harlem in partnership with great partners like Melba. I was one of one, the first ever community manager, proved out the business model. Now it's a national program across America, making impact in Black and brown communities. And my primary job is to close the racial wealth gap through drivers that create generational wealth. And that's what Black business does. So I'm really excited to be here to really talk about what the bank looks for when it comes to growing and scaling Black businesses. But I gotta tell you, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna tell you the truth. And sometimes my father used to say, I love you enough to tell you what you don't wanna hear. So I'm gonna tell you what you don't wanna hear because it pains my heart when I see amazing Black businesses open and shutter because they did not, one, plan accordingly. They did not separate their personal finances from their business finances, and they just didn't go off to the right start. So please, please, please take our advice because we want to do this for everyone in this room.
Absolutely. So let's jump into it. So for those of you that are startups, so I'm going to give you a high-level overview, and then I'm going to go right back I'm going to start with Melba because she basically funded her first restaurant out of her own pocket, right? And then what she's going to explain to you how that was necessary at the time, but going forward, you can't build a brand.
Never do that again.
Right? Never do that
Never
again.
do that again.
But understand the difference. As Nicole said, your personal and business finances are separate, but make no mistake about it. Your credit score, your personal credit is tied to your business credit, even though you got a separate EIN number and you have all LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, however that is, it's important for you to understand that. So debt and equity are two different forms, and there's always a cost of capital. It costs you money. There's a return that someone is looking for. So for me as a restaurant consultant, if I come into as an educator, right? If I come into your organization and I say, okay, show me your P&L statement, your profit and loss statement. Most of you are going to say, okay, let me call my accountant. I don't have nothing bad to say about accountants, but I'm going to say to you as the food service owner, you are the CEO of your company, the CEO, the CFO of your company, your COO. Your accountant only regurgitates historical information that already happened, and if you don't have that information in a timely fashion, it's hard for you to make CEO decisions. Right? Number two, if you're showing a consistent loss, there's no way you're going to go to Nicole or even to some crowdfunding, I don't know the crowdfunding world, and show that you've been in business for 3 years and you haven't made a profit in 3 years. That's a problem. So for some reason, Black folks, we feel like we don't want to pay no taxes. But in order to be profitable, you got to show it on paper. You got to pay something. You can minimize your tax burden, but you got to show some level of profit because in order for someone to invest in you beyond your family who believe in your dream, they got to know that in 36 to 48 months, how are you going to get your money back? Because the only thing you did was if I gave you 200 grand, you only just gave me my money back. I didn't get any interest on that money yet. So what's the cash flow that business is throwing off, which is reflected on your statement of cash flow? Income, right? Investing, financing, and operating activities. Money only flows two ways. The balance sheet, assets. Cash is an asset. Equipment is an asset. The most valuable asset we have is human resources. Not really reflected on your balance sheet, though, but it's important, right? So, Melba.
Yes.
Talk to us about not only just what you did in the beginning, but tell us where you are now and how are you funding, without any trade secrets, how are you funding the growth of your brand and taking it to a $20 million, $30 million food service company?
So, yes, I did have $312,000 under my mattress.
Rich auntie.
No, not a rich auntie. Someone that started from the bottom, started as a cashier, worked at Rosa Mexicano. Let's not get it twisted. There was no rich auntie, okay? It was someone that $5 would go under the mattress, $100 every Friday would go under the mattress. So that's how it started. You see that left eyebrow's up. No rich aunties. Biggest mistake I made was not using, as Robert De Niro told me, OPM. What's OPM?
Other people's money.
Okay? Because guess what? When times got hard, that $312,000 was gone. Okay? One of the biggest mistakes I made. So OPM, one of the other biggest mistakes I made was not having partners or investors. It's good to say you don't have partners or investors, but guess what? Instead of making $9 million, I should have been making $190 million. You understand? So don't think that not having partners and investors is a good thing. So I'm not here just to tell you about the great things I did. I also want to let you know where the landmines are so that you don't make the same mistakes that I made. Let's talk about, now I bank with Chase, as you heard Nicole say. Now my credit score is great, so I'm able to open up at Grand Central, or I'm able to open up at the Prudential Center. But it's only because I have been able to capitalize and make my money work for me.
And let me tell you, so debt, right? If you go to Chase, what's the interest rate? Prime plus 1 or 2?
So I'm not even going to talk about rates.
Oh man, that's a bad.
Because that's all predicated on everyone's individual
sure.
situation.
But I want to illustrate the difference between an equity investor. So if I go to an equity investor, and my cousin who's a celebrity, and he does want to put in $100,000, he or she might want 15% return on that investment. But if I can go to bank, if I'm bankable, I could borrow that money at maybe 9 or 10%. So you see the difference there. There's a cost of capital.
Right.
And equity is always more expensive because high risk, high reward. High risk, high reward. It's the American way, right? Because you're risky. There's nothing that's going to collateralize that loan. So, Shep, when you bought the business from your father, did he finance it for you? Did you give him 20 grand and then you paid him every month?
Well,
How did that happen?
my father taught me a valuable lesson in life.
What?
He said, if you want something, you work hard for it.
Okay.
So, honestly, my dad, he didn't sell us the business. We gave him a down payment, and we paid him every month. So technically, we financed.
You finance. That's a finance, right? Seller financing. That's available.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I honestly, I think financing is good because you don't have to put a bulk of the money up at one time, and then you can use the other money that you have laying around under the mattress, and you can leverage it, and you can invest it into other things.
Absolutely. And what also, Chef, is he's talking about a second-generation restaurant.
Right.
Right? Meaning it was already there. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, all that, all the mechanicals, MEPs is what we call them, was already there. Ovens, grills, deep fryers was probably there. Versus, leasing a vanilla box.
Right.
Like Melba and I are doing in Newark.
Yep.
But then there's TI improvements, the landlord put in money. There's other ways of getting that finance as well. Let's talk about crowdfunding a little bit.
1 second. How many business owners are in the audience? Do we own businesses?
Oh, nice.
Everyone?
Nice.
Thinking of owning a business? And everyone else is a customer? Okay. I want to go back to one of Melba's points of OPM, other people's money. The most successful businesses that you see, I want you to take away this point. They use a mix of OPM to build the business, okay? So it's not gonna just be one, maybe I'm just gonna get a loan from Chase, or I'm going to take investment from a venture capitalist or from one of my friends and family, or I'm going to crowdfund. I like to call it's a capital stack. A lot of these businesses that you see that you're looking up to, that you're like, I can't wait to get there, they use a mix of it. And your goal, no matter where you are in this journey of entrepreneurship, is for you to really know all of the different OPMs that are out there. You should know there's a lot of them that there are tried and true ones that have been around forever, and then there are new things that are coming out too that you want to keep your finger on the pulse of. And your goal is to structure your business so that you can pick, choose, and refuse whichever one of those makes more sense for you, right? Because as he's explaining, sometimes some capital, depending on when your back is against the wall or where you are in the business, can be more expensive than when you are not back against the wall. So I'll tell people all the time, the worst time to raise capital from whatever OPM you figure out is when you are in desperate need. That's the worst time to do it, okay? People can sense desperation, and when you are desperate, then you have to choose certain things that might not be the best thing for you. But the best time to raise is when you don't need capital, right? And you were raising it in the sense of knowing, well, I already have a relationship with JP Morgan Chase that I've been talking to them over 6 months, and I know all of the things that they offer, and I know where I stand as it relates to if I can qualify for that or not. I've already been talking to my crowd, right? My customers, current customers, people in my network, and I've been talking to them for over 6 months, telling them about what I'm doing, and they're loving the product or loving where I'm going with it, so much so that when I'm ready to launch a crowdfunding campaign, they're already primed and ready to go, like how Eat Okra did that when he was building the first app. And I don't know, how many of y'all have been rocking with Eat Okra from day one? So you probably were in Eat Okra's crowdfunding campaigns, at least 1 or 2 of them, right? So you see, you have that success leaves clue also, by the way. So you can follow what the Edwards have done. If you look at that, look at the history of them doing it for crowdfunding. So I just want you to take away the fact of like your goal from learning from this. We're very high level here, and it's a short period of time for us to get all the information to you. Number one thing, you want to know all the OPMs out there. What are their restrictions? What are their qualifications? You want to also know who's the decision maker behind those OPMs. Every single one of them. At the bank, you want to know who is going to make the decision of giving you the loan, who's making the decision for you to get on the crowdfunding platform. You want to know all the decision makers and build a relationship, because the other part of capital comes from relationships. Capital comes from relationships.
It's personal.
That is
Favorite word. Yeah.
Anything that you're looking at, when you're looking at people and you're like, how did they raise that? It's a relationship that they've built over time. All the capital. You're getting into an accelerator, you're getting a grant, you're getting the government, whatever RFP. It is all relationships. So that's the other part I would put. I want to make sure y'all take away from this.
Personal. Hey, go ahead, hold on, but I want to stay right. We got 5 minutes. You guys got questions, right? I just want to get takes temperature. If you have questions, put up your hand. All right, so we got to leave some time. Hold on.
I got something.
Go ahead, girl.
I just gotta
Go ahead, girl. Go ahead.
So, yes, it is relationships, but what's also is making the determination of your money is your tax returns. And I know, in the beginning, when we're starting these businesses, we think it's great when we're showing losses. That is not great with setting your business up for future success. So your accountant is not doing you a great favor when that bottom line is showing that it's negative, because again, it's all about your ability to repay. So please make sure that you get an accountant that helps you plan 5, 10 years, even 20 years out for your business. Not because we have to start getting in the mindset that I want to have this business for the long term. Either I want to grow it and sell it for a profit, or I want to pass it down to my heirs for generational wealth. And that all starts out from the moment that you start doing your taxes. So yes, it's relationships, but it's also your paperwork and your tax returns.
Absolutely. We cannot stress that enough when it comes to, and I don't have an issue with accountants, but your accountant is not that person that should be CEO in your business. Most of you are CEOs by default because you started the company. But if you had to submit a resume to a food service company to be a CEO of a food service company, which you actually have, would you be qualified? You follow me? So that's really where someone like a platform like Eat Okra comes in, and these educational things. This build a community. We will teach you how to think like a CEO, how to understand the difference between the CEO, the CFO, and the COO. Most of you fall under the COO, like you're operations experts. You're deep in the minutia of the day-to-day operations. That kind of puts you in that COO. But if you need to hire or subcontract out someone that's going to help you understand what does a long-term strategy look like, what's an exit strategy look like really from the door. As she said, do we want to sell this in 5 years? Or how do we get from 2 million to 4 million to 6 million and grow that brand? So just really quickly though, I want to go back to just give us a snapshot of the crowdfunding process. Are there, for banks, there might be an application fee. There's
no fees.
There's origination. No fee. I always got some fees.
No
man.
fees.
No fees.
No fees.
No points. No interest. No, none of that.
No
She said
fees.
no fees. I like that. You need to holler at her. I need to talk to you. How about on your application process, and how long does it take from the time you submit your application? 3 years tax returns, 6 months bank statements. Like, give me an idea of what is required there.
So let's go take a little step back. There's different types of crowdfunding, okay? So we all know GoFundMe, right? Where it's basically there is a serious cause that you match with, that you're like, oh, someone's going on with something really bad or something that happened and you feel bad for it, or some type of charity, and you give money to it and you expect nothing in return, right? There is business crowdfunding, I'll call it, or we'll call it rewards crowdfunding, which is like Kickstarter, Fund Black Founders, Indiegogo, where you contribute some type of monetary to the crowdfunding campaign and you get some type of reward from it. Maybe it's like an early piece of the product, maybe it is access to a special event, but it's some type of reward for you putting capital into that crowdfunding campaign. There is equity crowdfunding, right? Where when you put, and those platforms are like Seat at the Table is a Black-owned one. There's also Start Engine, WeFunder. When you're putting capital into an investment crowdfunding campaign, you are in exchange, you're going to get some form of equity in the business or whatever type of security that founder has decided to allot for you to get. And there's also debt-based crowdfunding, where essentially it's a loan, right? You put money in, and you're lending capital to the founder, and they're agreeing to pay it back. Each of those platforms have different processes. The lowest barrier to entry, where you do not have to submit tax returns, you do not need your credit score, there is no tie-in to those type of things, is rewards and donation-based crowdfunding, right? You do not have to submit any of those credentials. You also don't have to submit like your credit report or things of that sort for debt or equity crowdfunding too. But they will ask for things like you have to get approved onto the platform based on they want to see that you have fully planned out this business, whether it's a pitch deck, all the details about it, show some of your financials, all those different things. So just understand there's different application processes for different types of crowdfunding. What they all have in common though, right, regardless of what you have to do to get on the platform, like I said, rewards might be very easier to get on the platform versus getting on an investment or equity crowdfunding platform. What they all have in unison is the first thing that you always have to have for crowdfunding is a crowd. That's why the word crowd comes before crowdfunding. It's mission critical. None of these platforms, myself included, will bring you the crowd. You come with the crowd. The data shows like around 70 to 80% of any of those campaigns that you see successful, 70 to 80% of the people that are putting it in, it is their crowd that they build. So what you need to start thinking, even if you do not want to crowdfund, even if you're not even thinking of crowdfunding, everybody that you meet here today, all of your current customers, your future customers, you should be building a two-way dialogue constantly with them. Lock them into your community, building this strong community with them of transparently sharing the highs, the lows, the behind the scenes of the business, so that in the event, maybe 6 months from now, you're like, I think I want to add crowdfunding as part of my capital stack to capitalize the business, then you can easily be able to mobilize your crowd to go ahead and be a part of your crowdfunding campaign. So crowdfunding, like the main thing to leave with this point, you need a crowd. And right now, from today on, you can start building that crowd, even if you don't decide you want to crowdfund just yet. Just start building the crowd from now. Start building that relationship with them.
Wow, she just dropped. Y'all should just say thank you. That was powerful. Thank you. Is there a sweet spot in terms of dollar amount? 200,000, $500,000, $1 million? Just is there a sweet spot or no?
The average I think the average raise, just so you can know, on crowdfunding, 10,000, between 8,000 to 10,000. So when you see these outliers of folks who are raising $1 million, like y'all may know, fan base, Isaac Hayes, or you see people like Kim from Curl Mix. Has anyone known Curl Mix or things of that sort? You see these outliers, it's pretty impressive. It's not that it's not doable. It's the point of, if you really look at the history of what they've been able to do, they built a strong crowd. Like, the crowd is mission critical for you to get there. And you don't only have to crowdfund once. So that's the other part. Don't think that your first campaign is the million, right? Your first campaign, it's part of capital stacking. You can do your first campaign of raising maybe 30K to get you to a certain point, right? You work on the business, get some traction, now it opens up other things, and then you could run another campaign later on. But the strong dialogue that you have with your customer is gonna make or break you in the successes of those campaigns.
That's huge. Thank you very much for that. We're going to open up the floor to questions. We got time. We're going to run a little over. We got 5. We got a microphone out there for people, or how we doing? They're just standing up shouting? Oh, here we go. Kev. So bad. Question, you got all the way over there. What are we doing? This is good information, man. You got me excited. I need to talk to you.
Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for dropping some gems. Give me one moment. Take my tooth out.
Yes.
Hey, Kenny.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, my name is Tashay, or Chef Honcho, and I'm here with my mentees. And I just want to know, can you guys give us like a brief starter kit to get funding ready? Let's say with Chase. What should we be prepared for when we're walking into the branch? EIN, profit and launch, we have our pitch decks. Are there anything else we should keep in mind to be prepared for when it's time to ask for funding?
Great question.
Great question.
Really good question.
I would say making sure that you have a solid, obviously, business plan, projections, so you understand the roadmap to the business, and then also we also look at the experience of the business owner. That's very important as well. Also, making sure that you separate your personal finances from your business finances, and understanding that business credit is predicated on your personal credit. So if you're not managing your personal finances correctly, then typically what happens is that behavior transfers over to your business. So understanding how to manage your personal finances is really going to help you set you up for success when it comes to managing your business.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you.
Great question. It's all personal. We got a gentleman in the back and a lady right there too, Kev.
Thank you for this great panel. A quick question. So we separated earlier, there's business owners, aspiring business owners, and customers, right? I think there's another opportunity for us to not only be customers, but investors. So can we speak to the opportunity that we have in the community to invest in our businesses beyond just being customers?
Yeah, I think that speaks to I have a crowd. Go ahead. That's directly to you.
Okay, so how I'm framing it. So are y'all familiar with Fearless Fund?
Yes.
We know Fearless Fund. We know about the lawsuit, right? We know that people are trying to. We know there is a huge imbalance as for the amount of capital that our businesses get to start businesses, right? I think it's like less than 1% for Black women to get investment or loans. And we've been trying to fix this, since George Floyd. Everybody woke up and realized that America's racist, and they were like, okay, now we need to fix, how do we fix this gap? How do we make sure Black people have the money they need to start their businesses? And now you saw that then there's some folks went and attacked these grant programs and all these programs that we started to resource ourselves, right? So to your question, right now you should be thinking not only as I want to start a business, but you also should be thinking as for how do I fund our businesses in our communities, right? Because clearly there are some folks who really are triggered and want to continuously under-resource us by any means necessary. So we literally are going to be the people who have to save us, not just the people who look like us, but also the people who are they understand, they get it. It's a better economy when we all thrive, right? There are folks, so it's not just us. So what does that look like? You need to start thinking around, it's not just buying Black, right? It's not just going into Melba's and, supporting her businesses in the different locations that it is. But then it's also getting on Melba's email list, talking to Melba about where she is with the business, and then offering to be hey, how do I help? And there's different levels of help. You can, let's say if she decides to turn on a crowdfunding campaign, whether it's a rewards-based one or investment-based one, you can show up into her campaign. There's also some of us who can become accredited investors, right? And that's a whole thing of learning what does it mean to be an accredited investor. Accredited investors, based on how much income you make or how much you're, I'm blanking on the word. There's certain qualifications that you can do to become an accredited investor, which allows you to now be able to make investments into different businesses, larger than outside of crowdfunding, right? Outside of crowdfunding platforms. Let's say if the owner of, let's say Eat Okra, right? You're loving what you're experiencing here, and Anthony is like, guess what? I'm opening up a investment round in my business, not via crowdfunding, separate for accredited investors. Now, if you want to do a check of 10, 15, 25K, you're in that point, and you know this is going to hit, you might as well be that first person in. Like you think about the first person who was in on Facebook, or the first person in on whatever business you think about Google and how much money they would be making. So you have the opportunity to learn about that too, to see if you could be an accredited investor, and how do you become that, so that you can then find out about businesses that look like us that we should be capitalizing.
Wow.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
I have something to that too.
Yeah, go ahead.
That was a really good question that you have. So on an owner-operator standpoint with that, I have a really good mentee of mine. He owns 2 restaurants in Atlanta, and every time I call him, he says to me, Kenny, go build a customer. And when I hang up the phone, he says it about 3 times during the phone call, and I thought about that. Somebody else touched on building a fan base, building a crowd. I gave you a little bit about my journey and the way how I'll go from being in the kitchen, being Johnson & Wells, because I don't know what they do at CIA, but being in the kitchen and stepping outside of the kitchen and getting the whole crowd to engage on Kenny, Chef Kenny. Not just the chef, but the personality, letting people know the different funding that's available, letting people know that, I'm my aspirations, my dreams, and then once the customer, it's like a community. It's you know what I mean. That's why I really love cooking. Is like because over cooking is conversational piece, and you really bringing people into your home and taking them down your journey. And then another thing that I think you touched on is, finding the different. I'm actually I just want to let you know that me and my partner is one of the first black-owned to win a contract in Nassau County in 20 years. We just opened, and she's in the back right there. That's one of my partner, Laura. But we just opened a grab-and-go cafeteria. So not your traditional restaurant in the Supreme Courthouse. And how we did that was, we learned about RFPs. So you have to get MWBE certified because the government has set-asides for minority-owned businesses, millions and millions of dollars. That's like, here, come and take me. But the process to go through that, and I'm lost my words right now, but. I'm literally 2 months in on it, and everything that we're talking about on this panel, I'm taking it in too, because, to start another business, I had to crowdfund. I had to go and let people know about what I'm doing. I had to go and let them believe in me.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of information up here, and I hope everybody got it. Thank you.
Melba,
Jason.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, that was a great question, by the way. We, as people of color, are the #1 consumers. We're the #1 consumers. What does that mean? That means that we make everybody else not rich, but wealthy. There's a big difference between being rich and wealthy. Wealth is generational, okay? So what do? We have to become producers so that we can consume some of the products that we produce. We're talking about economic empowerment. That's what we have to do. Point in case. When I go to have coffee, where do I go? Where do I go? I go to neighborhood. okay? It's a few blocks away from my house, but I intentionally support a Black-owned business. When I buy flowers, I go to Barbara's Flowers, or I go to Franz James. When I go to do my dry cleaning, I go to Mr. J's dry cleaning. So we have to intentionally support one another, okay? That is the only way that we are gonna provide economic growth amongst each other. And I just, people talk about, buy black. Buy black, okay? When the Jews, what do? They stay within their own community, people. This is not hard. This is not hard for us to do. We just have to be intentional about it. And we just can't talk about it. We have to what? Be about it.
Be about it. Nicole, you got the last word.
Yeah, so I just want to leave everyone here with a resource. So we created at JP Morgan Chase a program specifically for minority entrepreneurs called Coaching for Impact. And what it is that you have access to one-on-one coaching from a JP Morgan expert and consulting. The wonderful thing is that you do not have to be a Chase for Business customer. So you can go on chaseforbusiness.com, you can sign up, and it's an excellent resource for you to get that day-to-day coaching and help your business thrive to the next scale with the subject matter expert. So please, please, please use that. The other thing is we created what we call a special purpose credit program, because we know that minority communities typically are underfunded. So with that, we have a program where we've gained access to capital for minority-owned businesses. Since the inception of the program in 2022, we've been able to help over 16,000 black businesses across New York gain access to capital, not only just with loans, but also for credit cards.
So I want to say something about Nicole and Chase, real quick, Jason.
No, go ahead.
When I met Nicole, it was at a women's foundation event, and after the event, part of it was held at Melba's, and after the event, a few of us stayed around, and I love for people to introduce themselves and say who they are and what you do. When Nicole stood up and said she was from Chase, everybody got on her case. And they were like, oh, I went to Chase, and they didn't do this, they didn't do that. Nicole took everybody's information, and she made a difference. I am now one of Chase's preferred vendors. They do 90% of their catering that's done in Harlem through Melba's. But she doesn't just talk about it, she is about it. Last week, I had my second meeting with Jamie Dimon, okay? And he came to Chase because of Nicole, so don't be afraid of the big banks. If anyone in this room knows me, you know my favorite word in the world is relationships. Don't undervalue your relationships. Your ability to pick up the phone and call Anthony from Eat Okra, or to call Miss King, the double kings over there, or to call Jason or Kenny. That's what it's about. Build relationships.
Yeah, it's all personal, people. This has been phenomenal, man. This is Eat Okra. This is what we do, y'all. You have to understand. You need to tell everybody about Eat Okra. You need to tell them about how you was fed here today, spiritually, educationally. You need to understand and know that Eat Okra is a platform for our community and how we're going to continue to build community. The entire restaurant ecosystem. Think about Eat Okra like the Home Depot. You come here, just a one-stop shop. Yep. Distribution. Job employment, right? Uniforms, food, Pepsi, Uber Eats, Easy Cater. I mean, I'm talking about all of our community partners. This is what Eat Okra is, and it's just the beginning. And when we're going to talk about releasing another round of crowdfunding, and we're going to tell y'all got to come on board, man. I'm telling you, you're going to get a great return on investment. We're going to build this community together. And this event is going to be twice as large next year because you're going to help us grow it. Is that correct?
Can I add in something?
Oh, man. Thank you all very much.
Wait. Can I add in something?
Oh, yep.
So I want to make sure the crowd knows. If you have been rocking with Eat Okra since day one, like y'all actually built this together, like with him. I saw that. It was one of the things that we were able to see him through his numerous crowdfunding campaigns, how you all showed up as a community to like pour into him and support him and help him in every way. So like what you're seeing here is literally, y'all did this. Like he's the leader, and his wife and my little CEO, I don't know where she is, they're the leaders of it. But y'all did it together, so like just imagine if we all continue to do this together, what other ones we can do. You look at Melba, it's the same thing. Like we're all doing it, so we just have to do it at a bigger, grander scale. So Eat Okra's not there yet. They still need more, right? They still need more help. So continue pressing on, and imagine like you can say you were at the first conference, you were at the first this, you were from the first day when the app broke and he couldn't figure it out. Like that's what you've been doing. You've been rocking with it since then. So keep going, and kudos to y'all as a community showing up. Look at what we did together. So that's what I want to make sure that's clear.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you all for coming out. We got more educational stuff throughout the day. Don't leave. And as I always like to say, my ending words, power to the people.
Yes.
Straight up.